right, everybody. Welcome to the first ever episode of Remote Control Sports. I'm John Sartori with my good friends Richie Solaris and Dylan Domingue. This is a dream we've had for almost 3 days, and we weren't going to give up this easily. We're here for our first ever episode. If you're watching, if you're listening, thank you for being a part of this. Just our first ever episode, we're just going to kind of give our thoughts on some of the things that are happening in the sports world. Hopefully, while this continues, we can start to have some guests on. We can start to have a little more fun with some games and everything like that. But we're going to lead the show off with what is probably the top thing on everybody's mind, the NBA. What is going to happen? What do they need to do? Will there be a regular season continuation? Will there be playoffs? Dylan, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I think the NBA is in a weird position to where I think that when they start, they could start back in the playoffs. I think they could just take the seeding right now and just go from there. But they also don't have to worry about other factors. They play in arenas, so it's not like it's baseball where we can talk about that later, playing into wintertime. I mean, the season's coming to a close as it is. But it would be like saying, oh, you can start the last 2 weeks of the regular season to go into the playoffs, but how much does that really change? I'm not really sure. It's really tough to say. I don't think, of course, no one really knows what they're going to do, but the NBA definitely doesn't know what they're going to do. I think what's going to wind up happening is they're going to take the top 8 seeds from each conference as it stands right now and go straight into the playoffs when they do come back.
Yeah, Richie, what are your thoughts? I think Dylan's on to something there with the top 8 seeds. And that stink from a Pelicans point of view, us being Pelicans fans, but it just doesn't make sense logistically for this league to go back into the regular season.
No, because, if they did that, think about the ramifications for next season. The 1-2 things would happen. Either they have a very, very short offseason, or that offseason is extended and the entire league year is going to be moved. And that's even longer ramifications, because how are you going to eventually catch up? So I think that they're going to have to go straight into the playoffs. That's really the only option. But then again, we still don't know what's going to happen, because with the situation, the pandemic that's still going on, the president just announced that, the stay-at-home order is going to be here till at least April 30th. Doctors have talked about, this might last all summer. We have no idea. I think the worst possible thing that they could do is make a rash decision and just say, look, season's over. We get it, but, no more games. They've lost enough money as it is. They can't afford to just cancel it. So they're going to have to go into the playoffs. Dylan, you're absolutely right. But unfortunately, everything just depends on how quickly this can move out of America before they can even decide on really what to do.
Yeah, because even if – sorry, John. But even if they went to the playoffs right now, they started the playoffs right now, it would still take well over a month before it gets completed.
Yep.
It would still take a long time. So, and in 2 weeks, if you take each team's final 2 weeks of the regular season, some teams play more than others. Then you go into weird type. It's just almost the easiest route to say. I know it sucks, especially for us as Pelicans fans, especially for teams in that 9-10 spot, or any team in the top 8 wanting to get out of playing, say, the number 1 seed or anything like that. But I think it's just the easiest route right now to say, when we do come back, to take the first 8 seeds and go from there.
And I feel like most people, between not just the fans, but players, coaches, owners, I think that they would be understanding of that. This is a freak thing that has happened. It's never happened in the history of the NBA or any of these other sports. So I don't think that there would be much objection, to the teams who might be right under the cut. Sure, it's going to stink, but I think that they're going to understand, and that they're just going to want to get back to normal. So
the thing that I want to talk about before we move on, and I can't believe I didn't touch on this, we're big sports guys, and you can see that from the jerseys that you guys wear. I decided to go with warm-ups, wearing my Nike long sleeve. So I'm still getting warmed up. But tell us who you're wearing today.
Dylan?
Well, there's no particular jersey. Story
It's
about this.
definitely James Blackman.
It is James Blackman, but
It's absolutely big James Blackman guy.
yeah. Story about this is we went into Ross one day
Mhm.
to the store. Richie was there. Richie actually bought a JT Barrett jersey the same
That's
day.
right. Ohio
Nice.
State.
But walked in. I think this was 20-something dollars. Great
That's a
quality.
steal.
Great quality.
Like Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Just
Just
walking
stealing,
right
just
in and
stealing,
stealing it.
stealing it. That's what it is. So
Yeah.
that's the story behind it. And Tomahawk. I even got the just coincidence, but I got the Tomahawk right here.
Okay.
You know, so no Knowles.
All right, Richie, who you wearing?
Yeah, so this is a Drew Brees jersey, but obviously it's not just a regular Saints jersey. It's
He's an
the
all-star.
NFC Pro Bowl
Yeah, he's an all-star.
jersey
What
from
year was that?
2012.
It's got to be 06.
No, this is 2012, man. Because this
Wow.
is when they changed the jerseys. Because originally it was just all blue and all red, and then they
It
changed
went
a lot of the
crazy in
wild
2012.
stars on there. But no, this my dad actually got this for me because we made a deal going into that school year. If I were able to get straight A's through that one semester, he was going to buy me any jersey I wanted, and it came down between this one and an old school Joe Namath jersey.
As
And-
opposed to a new school Joe Namath jersey. The 2019 Joe Namath jersey.
Well, you know what I mean. The classic jersey. But I got all straight A's, and he surprised me. He actually got me both of them. I got the Joe Namath in my closet.
I just want to say that if I had that, like your deal, I would have so many jerseys.
Oh yeah, that's why I have so many.
Dylan, really quick, the guy who created our logo for the show, Derek. Shout out,
Yeah.
Derek.
Yep.
How is your bet with him going? You're supposed to get a jersey
Well,
from him. Have you gotten it?
No, I haven't got the jersey yet. So the bet was this was my first year playing fantasy basketball. Never played it before. And a player that I talked about when we were on our sports show together back in college. We started in college, but you know what I mean.
No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I obsessed over Rui Hachimura, the forward from Gonzaga who now plays for the Wizards.
Yep.
And I made a bet with Derek that it didn't matter who won the league. It just mattered who had the best record between us two. And if I had the best record, he would get me a Rui jersey. If he had the best record, I would get him any Spurs jersey that he wants. He's a big Spurs fan. I won. He finished second in the league, so he wasn't happy about it. Haven't got the jersey yet. I think he's still putting it off because the season is technically not over.
Of course not.
And
that's the spirit we need to have.
Our fantasy basketball season is technically not over because they haven't decided what they're going to do yet. I beat them. It's already been decided that I've won, but I don't know. I hope we get it soon.
All right, well, we'll have to have Derek on. We'll have to have Derek on here soon to discuss that. But let's get back into another topic, something that we looked at a lot because we have just basically finished our last semester of college.
Yeah.
We're still technically in it, but it's basically over. But the eligibility, the NCAA extending eligibility for all spring athletes. I'm going to start with you, Richie. What are your thoughts on the decision? Obviously, it's a great decision.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your thoughts on it when you first heard it? How do you think this is all going to go down?
Well, first of all, back when they initially on that Thursday where we were all in the office and they said basically all college sports are going to be canceled. Our first thoughts were, oh my God, the seniors. I mean, with Southeastern, the women's basketball team was in Katy, 10 minutes away from playing in the conference tournament and told they got to go home. So the first thing we thought about was the seniors. And to me, there was no decision to make. You have to grant them an extra year of eligibility. Good for the NCAA to do so. But there's a lot more that goes into it. I mean, roster size is going to be the biggest problem for next year's for all of these different universities. I mean, for each sport, you can only carry a certain amount of people on your team. So what do you do?
Well, what they've done, they've announced this already. They're going to expand rosters for next season only.
But see, that's I don't know about that. I think they need to do a tiny expansion for all, because I mean, let's say you got 6 seniors on your team. Like let's say your whatever college baseball team, you got 6 seniors, so you're going to bring them back. So obviously you'd be expanded, but you're bringing more guys in So you're going to have to make more cuts that following season because of this. I think that they have to make a large expansion, but a small expansion from 2 to 5 guys permanently. I think that's going to be the best way to do this. I mean, either way, it's all screwed up, and it's going to take a lot of brain power from the NCAA, the universities, the coaches, the players. But I really believe that there needs to be a permanent increase on all the team capacities.
Dylan, do you agree with that?
Yeah, to an extent. And I like you were talking about with the women's basketball team, you feel bad for the winter sports that never got to complete their season and won't get that eligibility back.
Here's my argument with that. Yes, you feel bad
Yeah.
for them, but I saw an article. Georgia Tech was on a postseason ban this year. The question was, does this count as a year against them? Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely. They completed the whole season.
Yeah.
You feel bad for those schools that were going to make pushes for national championships, like
that's where I'm going
the
to.
Of the world, and the San Diego States, who this was a once in a lifetime type season for schools like that. But I think that a lot of this sympathy needs to be ratcheted down a lot because these winter sports got a full season, while spring sports they are going to get to come back.
I think I'm kind of speaking on behalf of the women's basketball team that from Southeastern, just because they haven't made the tournament since 2011 at that time. And that was a big moment for them. They didn't even get a chance to even play in a game in the tournament. I think that's where it goes. But for spring sports, I 100% agree with. I'm glad the NCAA chose to do that. Ivy League, however, deciding to not
Ivy League said we're not
doing that.
We're not doing it.
Yeah. But
what's up with them?
That doesn't.
What's up with them?
You know what's up with that? Their priority is academics over everything. Sports takes a big time backseat. It's the complete opposite to any other universities. But I mean, that is exactly what I would expect from Ivy League.
You got to remember when this all started. They were the first conference that came out and said we're not having fans, and then we're not having a tournament. And now they've said, we're not giving these seniors another chance. Yeah. And I think that 15 years ago, that's a fine argument. But the Ivy League produces really solid teams now. Yeah. They've always got a couple teams in the top 25 in football. Their teams in basketball have always been good. They aren't just students anymore. And I just don't think that you can use that same logic with Ivy League athletes.
I think there was an article that said like Ivy League doesn't even do like 5th-year red shirts or anything like that. That's why they're not doing it, because they don't want, like, I guess the school doesn't want these extra years for these. It's weird to say that.
It's crazy.
But that's their whole logic, and they would follow that for anything.
Part of me feels like they need to be the Ivy League. They need to be their own separate entity.
Yeah.
They don't compete for many NCAA championships anyway. Football in the Ivy League isn't allowed to compete for NCAA championships.
Right.
Why do they not just go away from the NCAA and just play their own thing, and they can do what they want?
The NCAA would never let that happen. And
yes, they would.
No, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. Because then if they're their own separate entity, what happens if Harvard says, you know what? We'll start paying student athletes. I know
they can do that because they're their own thing.
I know they could do that. But do you know the mess that's going to create if Harvard, for example, were to do that? Every other student athlete in the country would be screaming. Even
go to Yale. Then go to Yale.
And go to Yale.
Do you think if like these players from like seniors from Ivy League schools would transfer to another school, do you think they would get that eligibility?
Yes.
And I don't know. I think they should do that. I think they should.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think it will show the interest of these athletes to do a 5th year, which is the final thing I want to say on this. A lot of people, they think spring sports, they think baseball only, but you also have to consider tennis, softball. And while a lot of these baseball players do have lives outside of baseball, There are those that are focused solely on playing at the professional level.
Mm-hmm.
There is no real professional softball league.
Mm-hmm.
Tennis is such a hard thing to get into on a professional scale. I wonder how many of those athletes are going to forego just starting their lives after athletics and coming back. Because a lot of these athletes in all these sports are doing very impressive things academically. And I wonder, are they going to want to pass up on being paid for a job to come back and play for one more year?
Well, I think it almost goes hand in hand with being an athlete that's going professionally. It's like I would forego my senior year, just go to the draft, just
Mm-hmm.
go make money.
Yeah.
Why am I staying an extra year when I know I can go get paid? Same thing, same principle with people that can go get real world jobs.
Yeah.
Why am I going to stay an extra year here when I got a job offer? I can go make money. I can go start my next life outside of sports. It sucks that my career ended this way, but it's way more beneficial for me to do that than come back to school for something I really don't even need.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I'll say about that though is, I mean, these guys, these men and women who are playing these sports, they obviously love the game. And once you're done, you're done. That's it. There's no going back. I wish I could go back to high school and run cross country or play football again, but it's over. My dad told me that when I was young. He said, look, play as long as you can because one day there's going to come a day where you can't play anymore. And I think that has to be in their mindset too. And I completely get wanting to start your own life, getting a job, moving on. But at the same time, in the back of your head, you don't want to be sitting there saying, I'll move on. And then 10 years down the road, be regretting it for the rest of your life. Man, I wish I could play one more year at my university. I think that's got to be in their mindset.
Yeah, but what if you come back and you turn down like 100,000 to go like 5-28?
Well, of course. I mean,
It's almost situationally.
Yeah, exactly. Case
I'm
by
not
case.
saying that they have to come back. I'm just saying it's something that every collegiate athlete is going to be thinking about. Because even me, I think about that. I was never a college athlete. I was a high school athlete, and I think about it all the time. It's something you wish you could go back and do. Is all my point is.
All right, really quick. We're not going to spend much time on this, but the NFL expanding the playoffs from 12 teams to 14 teams. Richie, you're the NFL guy. What are your thoughts on this?
It's very interesting. I think my favorite part about this is you really only have one true team that gets a bye, which I think is going to be really interesting. I mean, you look at it, it's always been two teams get the bye, now only one. So that second spot is not nearly as coveted, which means, some teams that might, be 12-3 at the end of the season and thinking, well, you know what, we're not going to get the first seed because, the Falcons are, 13-1, 14-1. So maybe you might. It's just an example. It's the first team that comes to my head. But the
You're a
point is,
Saints fan. That's the first team that comes to your head.
They are on the rise. Rise up.
I mean, they are now. The Bucks are even more on the rise, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, point is, I think it brings an extra factor into it. So teams might be willing to rest players more. Come the last game of the season because they know that they're not going to get that first seed. But I like the idea of a seventh team. I mean, every year we're talking about it. Man, I would have loved to see so-and-so in there. One more team get in there. Let's see what they do. I like it. It's more football. It's 6 total games in wild card weekend instead of just the 4. That's great. Everyone loves more football. But a lot of the players in the NFL were not happy with the CBA deal, specifically because more football brings a higher chance of injury. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be a worry, especially for coaches, which might, you might see teams start to shut down week 16 and say, you know what, we know what our spot is going to be. It, doesn't really matter for a 5th or a 6th seed. We're going to get in, getting our starters hurt if we know we can just get in. I like it as a football fan. I'll get to watch more, but it's going to be a really interesting experiment, honestly.
Yeah. Dylan, nearly half the teams in each conference get in now. What are your thoughts with that aspect of it?
I mean, It's so hard to say, and I agree with Richie in terms of it's for the fans and it's for business, it's for revenue, it's for making money, it's for TV deals. That's what it's for. But it's hurting the players in the same sense. What it would be is the next highest seed in each conference. Like
Yep.
that'll help. What I always wanted with the NFL is I wanted the top 6 or now top 7 teams in each conference get in. Like I don't want to see the 7-9 Cowboys who somehow won their division get in when you have another team that went, say the NFC South has 3 teams win 10 plus games. I would rather see all 3 of them teams get in than just a 7-9 Cowboys team that won their division get in. I think that's what I would want to see more because that's what you were talking about, Richie. Was man, I wish we would have seen that team get in because they only had 2 wild card spots. Now they have 3, so now you have that chance to see that extra team get in. I think it'd be more beneficial. But again, for the players, I mean, you're at week 6 in the regular season, and none of the players are 100%. Now you had an extra week, and now it adds more physical toll on the body. And we're at a day and age where we're more focused on injuries, especially when it comes to concussions and things like that. Again, it's more beneficial for the fans, and we're going to enjoy it more. But as players, I mean, that's a physical toll it's going to take on them.
Here's my argument to what you're saying is in the NBA a few years ago, there was a huge uproar. Let's get rid of the conferences or the conference playoff format because the Eastern Conference is so awful. There's 5 teams below 500 make the playoffs. Everything eventually evens out. And so I think if you jump to that conclusion that we're going to get rid of divisional, I personally love the fact that a 5-11 team can technically make the playoffs. I think that is one of the great aspects of the NFL playoff format. And what I also like about the new format is, like Richie said, the one team. You have to be the best. You can't be the second best and get a bye. It's so much higher of a reward to be that one team. And my argument against it, what I think has made the NFL and the Major League Baseball playoffs so great over all the years that they have refused to expand. And when they have, it's been very small. When you look at the NBA, over half the teams in each conference make it. Over half the teams in the league make it. Over half the teams in the NHL make it. What is the reward there? How good are you if over half the teams make it? Major League Baseball for years, 8 of 30. And now I think it's 12 teams or 10 teams. I think it's 12. And the NFL is working towards becoming like the NBA and the NHL, where just everyone's going to get in. Because by the time that we're in our 70s, the league is probably going to be around 36 teams, and 20 of them are going to be. It's just the way it is because they're always going to expand for the money. So that's what I don't like. That's what I don't like about it. Speaking of Major League Baseball, let's talk about it. Opening day, everyone didn't lose. Everyone's undefeated. Neutral sites. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about playing at neutral sites. I personally don't mind it. Dylan, do you feel different?
Neutral sites in terms of games or like World Series? Like where does more your
Well, there have been reports on both of them, starting the regular season in neutral sites, as well as the World Series, which I think is just stupid and that's never going to happen. And I think that's a headline.
Yeah, I think the starting a neutral site is very possible, but I think they're going to start out in spring training again because you can't just jump into opening day. I think it's going to be like a week or 2 of spring training. I think it's going to be a week or 2 of games.
Don't. For
They
what?
can't jump straight into old. They can't jump
Yes,
straight in
you
opening day.
can.
Not like pitchers and catchers.
Go and warm up for a week in the bullpen. You're telling me we can't? You're telling me we can't do this for a week? Who cares?
I don't think so.
Who cares? It's a 100-game season.
I don't think. Nah, I think they're cutting that. I think they'll cut that down too.
Yeah, it's 100 games.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Again, I hate the whole World Series being a neutral site thing. I don't agree with that because if you put at a neutral site, say like the Dodgers, but somehow the Dodgers make it into the World Series, that becomes not a neutral site anymore. Then you're playing all 7.
That's the issue you have with this?
No, there's a lot more that goes into it. Because like, for one, you're playing all the games there, and it's not like a Super Bowl where you go play there for one game. You know, fans get to travel there for one day, be there for that time. you have to literally be there for at least 4 games, which is
Yeah.
7-8 days.
Yeah.
Which is
Even
that's
longer than that.
yeah, if it goes to 4 games, which it rarely does. If
Yeah.
you go to 7, you're spending 2 weeks out there.
Yeah.
That's enough as it is. Then it takes the whole home field advantage fan aspect out of the game. That's what it does.
Yes.
That's why I don't like the neutral site. I would rather you play in your home ballparks. And then what is your incentive to what's going to be the neutral sites? What ballparks are you going to use? Are you going to use certain ballparks and take teams out of their home ballpark? That's my whole thing about it. Like I don't like the whole neutral site. I would prefer them play at their home stadiums.
Yeah, the only sport, well, major sport that does the neutral site is the Super Bowl for the championship. Richie, is that a model that you think other sports should follow?
No, because the NFL is it's so different and unique from the other. I mean, the NBA, the MLB. There's so many more games. The NFL, you've got 16 regular season games, and that's it. You can't. If the Super Bowl was, play, 3 times, fine. You have one in New Orleans and one in Indianapolis. If those are the teams that are playing, fine. But you can't do that with baseball or the NBA. Honestly, this, the neutral site for the World Series, it's a money-grabbing scheme. That's exactly what it is. Think about this, all right? Let's say it's the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds. Let's say they're in the World Series just because 2 smaller cities. What's going to make the MLB
same league?
What's going to make the MLB more money? Having all of these games in Los Angeles or having them in these smaller cities? Because let's be honest, of course the fans are going to want to, go to their hometown games. But what about the people who just love baseball and who want to go to the World Series?
Mm-hmm.
Would you really rather go to Pittsburgh over Los Angeles, California? Think about all the other people who are going to go to Los Angeles to watch the World Series. It completely takes away the authenticity of the World Series, of these fans being able to watch their teams in their hometown, some, possibly for the first time ever.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing about this is, you kind of talked about it, the NFL is different from the NHL, from the NBA, from the MLB, and the fact that the NFL has one championship game.
Yep.
You play one game to decide who's the champion. Every other sport, it's a best of 7. And that's the whole thing about it, is you can't go play 7 games away.
Exactly.
That's why they have it the way that they have it right now. And the whole argument that even started this was because Los Angeles was to host the All-Star game. And they're like, well, they're not going to do the All-Star game anymore with probably 100 games. So take that out, but let them have the World Series and make their revenue back.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing is they don't have the All-Star games, the World Series, or the All-Star games location decided for the next 100 years. Yep. It's decided for the next 6, 7. Just push everything a year back. It sucks, but just keep pushing everything 1 year back. And I think that'll help. That'll help it, because you can still host your All-Star game. It's not like a team that's hosting it 4 years down the line already has all their merchandise made.
Yeah, and let's be honest, that's, if for whatever reason Los Angeles gets, one All-Star game taken away, that's not going to destroy the city of Los Angeles. For 1 year, one baseball game, they've got plenty of other stuff going on. Los Angeles will still be standing if they weren't to have that All-Star game. I think it's a stupid idea, period.
Here's what last thing on this. Let's say Miami gets it. And there's no way you can tell me that Miami in the 5 years of this neutral site World Series would not get it, because they have the facilities and they have Derek Jeter and they'd have maybe 10,000 people show up. Yep. It would be a disaster.
Yep.
It would be awful. All right, guys. Before we get into our final segment, want to tell everybody, if they're still even listening or watching, we've been going a while. As we get more into this, we're going to have more frequent episodes, hopefully making shorter episodes as well. All the clips from the show, you can find them in the full episode, or we're also going to upload different segments to our YouTube. Follow us on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Remote Control Sports, on Twitter, Remote C Sports, and on Instagram at Remote Control Sports. So really quick, let's get into our final two segments. Our first one, predictions. Predict which sport is going to come back first, and I want an exact date. Whoever gets closest gets a point. Richie, we'll start with you.
John, what's the most American sport in the country?
Gotta be hockey.
Yes, it's hockey. No,
You
it's
think football's coming back first?
no baseball. Baseball has always been the most American sport.
No, football is definitely America's sport.
Yeah.
Well, now it is, but for years,
Okay. I see what you're
baseball
saying.
was,
America's
American sport.
pastime.
He
So
fooled me with that. He threw me a curveball.
Yeah,
Little baseball.
Look at his
term for you.
background. Do you think anything of him screams America's baseball?
That's the other thing. I didn't know we were having backgrounds. You like mine?
Yeah. you got Roomy back there.
I got Roomy the cat. Is he even back there? He's laying down.
So baseball, America's sport. What's the most American day of the year in America?
The 4th of July.
July 4th. That's
Wow.
when MLB is going to come back. It's going to be a huge celebration. I think they roll out all kinds of different events all across the country, not just having these games, but the MLB will have some sort of, pregame thing for the kids, free food, free drinks, hot dogs and soda, all that. I think it'll be a big thing if this virus goes away. They want to bring more attention back to the sport. I think that's the perfect way to do it.
All right, Dylan.
Well, my answer is way different, but it is baseball. I think baseball comes back. Like I said earlier in the show, I don't think it starts on opening day, but I think they start maybe a week or two of that spring practice with no fans. But I think it's an official game, official spring practice, spring training game.
No. I want a regular season game.
Okay, then all right. So I had 2 weeks of it. So now I'm going to plan for my original date was spring training, May 24th.
Okay. So
now
that would be
actually, that's kind of funny. It'll be my birthday. Opening day, baseball, June 7th.
There we go. All right, I'm going NBA. I think the NBA comes back first. I think they come back May 25th. May 25th.
Wow.
All right. Final segment before we get out of here. I want to know what you guys are watching to spend or kill some time. Richie, start with you.
Oh, I've been binging Supernatural. I know it's been out for years, had never watched it before. I'm on, season 8, episode 18 or something. It's so good. I love it.
Very good. Very good. Dylan?
Well, I was on the hype train before everybody else kind of got on.
Yes, you were. I know what you're talking about.
Just finished All-American.
Yep.
Very, very good. Actually, and this might sound crazy to everybody, I've never watched The Office from beginning to end. So I'm doing that right now.
What season are you on?
Two.
All right.
2 season episode 10.
All right. Well, at some point this weekend, we will get together. I don't know if it'll be us three, but we're definitely going to get somebody to sit down with Dylan, and we're going to discuss The Office. So stay tuned for that.
And then Tiger King's next, by the way.
Tiger King is on the docket. Be on the lookout for that. We're going to break down Tiger King and give our review for that in a future episode as well. I watched Midsummer last night. I don't know if any of you guys have watched that.
I haven't seen it.
A horror thing?
Yeah, it's weird. It's a ride. Highly recommend though. Very good. Been watching The Office because I love it. And today, my girlfriend's nephew was here, or cousin was here. They'll watch a lot of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, which
I seen the tweet about it.
There's a lot of characters that I was not familiar with in the Mickey Mouse universe.
Like who? There's
like this big bulldog guy, and there's an elephant. Maybe the elephant was like
it's funny you bring that up. My nephew, that's all he watches. So all day long, all you hear is the hot dogs.
Hot dog, yes.
Hot dogs. That's all
they love it. They love it. And then Goofy ruined everything, but that's not important. All right, so that'll do it for our first episode of Remote Control Sports. Again, if you've listened to the whole thing, we cannot thank you enough. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Remote C Sports, on Instagram, Remote Control Sports, and you can find us on Facebook, Remote Control Sports. If you don't have time to watch it, You can listen to the podcast. The podcast is going to be on Anchor. We'll put the link to that on all our social media as well. Make sure you're following us. That way you know which episodes are coming out and everything like that. But for Dylan Domingue, Richie Solaris, I'm John Sartori. Thanks for joining us on the first ever episode of Remote Control Sports, everybody.